So without further ado, I'll welcome Adel to the stage to start to talk to us about Microsoft Ads. Please, welcome Adel.
Hi everyone, I'm Adel. I work at the Genius. I'm a PPC analyst. I've been there for around 2 years now. And today I'm going to talk to you about Microsoft and whether it's worth your time or not. One of the main things that I've sort of seen as a PPC analyst is the fact that a lot of our clients are primarily on Google. And once you have essentially used up all of your efforts on Google, you want to figure out what's the next step for your clients and for yourselves. And that's where Microsoft essentially comes in. So this isn't a Google versus Microsoft thing. This is a partnership. And the idea is why you should be using Microsoft for your efforts and for your clients as well. So just very briefly, what is Microsoft Ads? Essentially, it's a pay-per-click advertising, much like Google. And the primary differences is the platform that it operates on. So in this case, Bing search engine. And again, just like with Google, you can have your text ads, displays, shopping, videos, and everything else really. And I think one of the main things with Microsoft is that obviously in the past it's received a lot of bad rep because it just wasn't performing. Since then, a lot has changed, and I think that it's worth considering some of these elements. So first of all, this is what we consider the Microsoft Edge ecosystem. So we have Microsoft Edge, we have the Bing network, MSN, Outlook, Xbox 360, and of course LinkedIn, as I'm sure a lot of you probably know about the audience targeting on that. In terms of, again, just figures, as you can see, we have, and these are figures as of earlier this year, so these are extremely accurate. In terms of earlier this year on Microsoft Edge, and that's the web browser, it's over 800 million monthly users. In Bing, 698. In MSN, 484. In Outlook, 108. Xbox 69, and then LinkedIn 750. Just a question, does anyone here use Microsoft? Amazing, amazing. And I guess we can say this after, but how have you found that to be so far with your efforts? I mean, is Microsoft a platform that you consider to be important? Yeah.
Are we talking Bing chat or Microsoft?
I mean, specifically, I guess in this case, Bing. Is it something that you consider to be significant? So, I mean, for us internally, we work. We're an agency, so I work with an agency, but we also work with other agencies, and we primarily work with at the moment trying to expand on their Microsoft efforts. So, for instance, if in the past they haven't had a good experience with Microsoft, we're able to essentially provide them with insights. Decks, specialist information, and also industry specs that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. And this is one of the main reasons that we've sort of said that now, outside of just using Google, it's worth your time to also consider using Microsoft. I mean, when we look at some of the sort of benefits, a lot of this is relatively repetitive and things that you've probably already heard in the past. So of course, we've just discussed the reach of Microsoft. The targeting for us is what we consider to be the most important thing when it comes to Microsoft. The fact that you can essentially be very specific with how you're targeting your audience, where it's demographics, locations. You can decide on the times that you're choosing to target them. And when we look at as well as at traffic, one of the main things that we've noticed as well is that at the moment, a lot of the Microsoft traffic that comes through tends to be from more affluent consumers. A lot of these consumers are in careers, and so they tend to have a higher disposable income. And also, it's a lot of them, whilst they are browsing, have already made the decision to purchase, so you're likely to get a conversion coming through. Competitive pricing, I mean, this is something that I think a lot of you have probably already heard as well. CPCs are extremely competitive, and primarily it's to do with the fact that Microsoft is not as saturated as Google. And of course, synergy with Google Ads, the fact that you're able to very easily take campaigns into Google and import them straightly into Microsoft. And then also there's the integration with the ecosystem, and that's essentially what we've covered in the first, so with the Bing, MSN, Outlook. It all provides a seamless experience. One of the most important things with Microsoft Ads, or Bing specifically, is the Microsoft Audience Network. So a lot of times, if you're on Google and you have campaigns that are performing well, or you have campaigns that are not performing well, and you want to target specific audiences, Google doesn't give you the amount of availability to be able to do that, whereas Microsoft does. You can be extremely specific with who you want in terms of their age, in terms of their industry, in terms of their demographics. So one of the main important things that we sort of look at is the Microsoft Audience Network, also known as MSAN. So these are all essentially what we consider to be native displays. You have image ads, text ads, product ads, also shopping ads. And essentially, there are two sort of ways that you can go about setting this up for your own clients. So the first one is to essentially expand on your already existing search campaigns. So you can have this integrated into existing campaigns, or you can create separate campaigns that would be audience targeting. For us, I would personally recommend the second, just because I feel like if you already have an existing search campaign and then you add your audience targeting in that, it can make it very difficult to distinguish between how one campaign is performing versus the other one. And also, if you have a separate audience campaign and then your existing search campaigns, you can then set different goals, different bids, and you have more control over both of those. And then again, just some figures to kind of show you how it's essentially been performing, and generally how businesses tend to find they perform better once they implement the Microsoft Audience Network. And again, just in terms of understanding just how fast Microsoft has expanded, as you can see, we have 5 different continents that they currently operate in, and I think this is actually much bigger now. If you have a business that's potentially trying to go international and hasn't had the capabilities of doing that, Microsoft might be a platform to consider. I mean, in Europe alone, we have 170 million PC searchers, 3 million monthly searchers, and 12% of that volume comes from new markets. So it's a venture that's worth considering. Okay, so the idea is that we're not trying to say that you need to pick Microsoft over Google. We're trying to say that you should have both of them in conjunction with each other. It just makes sense that if you have one, you should have the other one. And if not, you're essentially missing out on potential revenue, you're missing out on, potential revenue. Like that's enough. And again, just so that you guys can, I guess, get an idea of the differences between Google and Microsoft to understand why it would be worth having both instead of just having one over the other. So again, we've mentioned the LinkedIn profile targeting. So this is, again, very specific to industry, company, job function, and this is only unique to Microsoft specifically. Google doesn't give you this option. So again, if you want to be very granular with how you want to target your audience, it would make sense to maybe have 1 or 2 campaigns on Microsoft alongside the ones that you already have in addition to Google. Custom audiences as well, not something that you can get on Google, but something that you can get on Microsoft. And in terms of having a bit more control as well, location, language, and devices, you can't do that on Google at ad group level, but you can on Microsoft. So again, that gives you the option to have the opportunity to decide exactly what you want to target and how you want to do that. In terms of reports, you get reports at domain level on Microsoft, but Google doesn't give you that option. Search domains is the same as well. And I think something that, I don't know if you guys, I don't know if anyone knows, so Microsoft Clarity is the Microsoft version of Google Ads Analytics, essentially. And I actually think it's quite great. It gives you recordings. So if you are trying to figure out how people are behaving on your website, you can essentially go to Microsoft Clarity, review your recordings, and see exactly where they have clicked. And that can help not just with your own PPC efforts, but also to kind of figure out, well, what can we do on the other side of things? How can we change the structure of our website, or how can we make it easier for the people that are visiting our sites? Reporting, so Microsoft is a lot more transparent than Google is, and that's one of the things that we consider to be extremely important. So they give you, they're very open with sort of how the auction insights are, and they give that to you on a multi-account basis, whereas Google doesn't. And they also offer you location targeting recommendations based on how you've set up your campaigns as well, whereas Google won't do that. So again, if you have certain campaigns that you maybe don't know where it would operate best in location, you can move those over to Microsoft and then they can give you recommendations based off of that. Ad extensions, filter extensions, image link, the list is kind of endless. These are a few that are worth mentioning, but the list is very long. And I guess just to sort of wrap it up for anyone that is interested in creating Microsoft campaigns, it's a very simple process. You set up your goals, you pick your keywords. They've also got a keyword generator, so it helps you with that, as well as creating your ads. Very similar to, I guess, Bart that Google now has. Microsoft has their own sort of AI as well that they use, and it generates your ads for you. You set your daily budgets, and they give you recommendations on that as well based on what you've inputted. And then you can launch your campaign. And of course, there's always the option to just import directly from Google. Of course, we don't necessarily always recommend that, just because if you're operating on Microsoft, the idea is that you're operating on a different network because you're trying to reach a different type of audience. And so what you're doing on Google shouldn't necessarily always be replicated on Microsoft. And I think that is it.